Christian Horner has decided to go against his old nemesis Toto Wolff yet again as he fired shots towards the Austrian colleague of his regarding the departure of Hamilton. Lewis has already started the avalanche of events that resulted in him activating a clause in the Mercedes contract, and that wasn't accepted well by Wolff. Now, Horner believes that the team principal of Mercedes was the one who played dirty with his driver, but is this a shot that would reignite the rivalry after the latest Russell-Verstappen spat? And if so, can this set the stage for a competitive 2025 season off the track? It's safe to say that Horner and Wolff have been going on and off for the past couple of years, or more precisely since 2021, when the rivalry between Verstappen and Hamilton kept everyone on their toes throughout the entire season. But even though Mercedes wasn't competitive throughout the new era, we had quite some off-track battles between these two. And the most recent one happened when Horner commented regarding the departure of Hamilton. The Brit believes that the team principal of Mercedes was the last one to know that Hamilton was leaving the team, which means that he was left in the dark for a very long period of time. And that shows that the friendship that Wolff and Hamilton had might not be on the level that was pictured in the media. When talking about it, Horner spoke about the lack of competitiveness that brought Lewis to his decision and how that impacted the connection he had with his team principal Wolff, adding, "Mercedes had 3 very uncompetitive years by their own standards. Lewis has decided to leave the team. Perhaps he doesn't believe in the future that was presented to him and probably needs that revitalized motivation. After 2013, we did not have a competitive engine, but every year we were winning races and we were still punching above our own weight, bar 1 year in 2015. When you are not delivering a team, the less you say, the more you focus on sorting your own issues out, which is usually a better way of going around things. It is a competitive business and I get it. Toto had lost his driver to Ferrari a month earlier and he was telling the world that wasn't happening. He seemed to be the last person to find out about it. Indeed, we saw a lot of interviews where Wolff was quite adamant that the future is stable with Hamilton and Russell. However, that didn't actually happen. And when Hamilton announced his departure, the change of attitude in the Austrian team principal has shifted massively. He then started to talk about how he knew that things were leading towards this scenario and that eventually the most successful driver of all time is going to leave them sooner rather than later. He just didn't know that it would come this soon. Even though the 2024 campaign was supposed to be a very special one for Hamilton, the fact that he announced his departure before even testing out the W15 has gone on to show that he was determined to do this for a long time, especially with Loic Serra joining Ferrari 1 year prior to Hamilton. Serra was also one of the doubters of the zero pod design that was initially pushed by Mike Elliott, but even with the restructure of the technical director spot and the return of Allison, nothing much else has changed, and the radio messages in Canada as well as Baku have gone on to show how painful Hamilton's tenure in Mercedes has been in 2024, even though he stopped the winless streak and won a race for the first time after Jeddah in 2021. And regarding Horner's comments that Wolff was the last one to find out, there is tons of truth behind it, because if you look at what Toto said regarding the departure of Hamilton as to how he found out, it's definitely an indicator that Wolff was kept in the dark and was alerted about such a move from Carlos Sainz Sr., the father of the driver that Hamilton is replacing in Ferrari. Talking about it to a greater extent, Wolff said, "So I heard the bells ringing 2 weeks before Hamilton announced the departure. The old man Sainz called me and said, 'This is what's happening.' And then there were a few drivers' dads who rang me up that didn't before. So I thought, okay, there is something going on there. Then I sent a text to Vasseur saying, 'You're taking our driver,' but I didn't get any response. That was very unusual for Fred. He is a good friend. So yeah, I saw it coming." There is not a doubt that Hamilton felt like Mercedes was betraying him in the long run, and that is something that ruined the way that his last seasons ended with the Brackley-based squad. More often than not, he had the experimental car in his hands and Russell was the preferred driver, and when Hamilton raised the doubts about the zero-pod concept of the car, he wasn't listened to, something that the engineers understood quite late in the current regulated era. Hamilton has commented on this matter, saying that engineers have said sorry to him because they didn't listen when they should have, and that he is the last person that wants to say, "I told you so." But in this case, that was the reality for Mercedes and their competitiveness with the design that they chose to go with. All of this is taking its toll when it comes to who you are going to trust inside the team. And if we are to trace back some of the moves that Mercedes made not that long ago, we'd guess that everything started from signing Russell back in 2022. Hamilton was on a quest to redeem himself in the first opportunity available in the ground effects era, one that was unknown to everyone on the grid. And he preferred to have Bottas as his teammate because we know how much he helped him throughout the 4 championships he's won, having the Finn as his teammate. But Mercedes decided that it's time to move on and promote Russell, and this might be one of the reasons why the situation has developed the way it has, with Vasseur admitting that it wasn't very hard to convince Hamilton to join Ferrari. What this goes to show is that the 7-time world champion might have known something that we didn't, and most importantly, the timing of the arrival in Ferrari makes a lot of sense. 1 year before a newly regulated era starts. The same move he did back in 2013 when he switched seats from McLaren to Mercedes. When talking about the move of signing Hamilton and how difficult it was to persuade him to sign, Vasseur said, "In 2023 we won more races than Mercedes, and at the beginning of the season was also good, so it was not difficult to convince him that Ferrari would be a good project." And I think he had the project to drive for Ferrari in his mind for at least 22 or 23 years, because we were discussing this in 2004. It meant that it was not difficult. I think sometimes it's also a matter of coincidence, or to align all the planets, that he is on the market and that Ferrari has a seat available and so on. But the contract was an easy one. We started to discuss 1 year ago and it was not difficult to convince him at all. Be that as it may, there will be a lot to prove in 2025 because Hamilton has entered a project that was always meant to crown Leclerc. And if we're being honest, it's going to be extremely tough for the 7-time world champion to integrate himself into the Maranello team in a smooth manner. He started learning Italian so that he can satisfy the media and address them properly, and he has visited Maranello on several occasions, already putting forward his requirements regarding the position of the cockpit, something that was extremely problematic for him throughout the Mercedes days. On the other hand, Mercedes is now on a mission to show Hamilton that it was never about him and his driving style, rather than the restructure of the team, with Antonelli, who is dubbed to be the next Verstappen in terms of pure speed and talent, set to debut in 2025 in a great fashion. This is a very unusual move for Mercedes, as they were usually going through a pattern in which they raised their drivers in the sister team like Williams before being promoted to a senior team. Be that as it may, do you think that Wolff was indeed the last one to know to find out about the move of Hamilton? And if so, do you think that this will definitely impact the relationship that these two will have outside the track? Now they are going to be fierce rivals from 2025 onwards. Let us know in the comments below, and if you're interested in Hamilton's major problems in Ferrari's integration, check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.